It's the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That is Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We're coming to you from our homes on this Friday afternoon, and we will be doing so for the next couple of hours, talking local, regional, and national sports topics. So stick around. It's going to be fun. Wade, are you ready for the weekend?
Ready for the weekend, Mo? Well, as ready as I can be. If you go back to an earlier episode this year, I told you guys I was going to stop running. Well, I said I was going to stop signing up for half marathons, but I find myself in Lynchburg getting ready for the Oak Barrel, which is one of the fun races in Middle Tennessee. The legs are not ready, the body's not ready, but the vibes will be high this weekend, and we'll try and get through it. And then after that, we'll reassess on that New Year's resolution.
There you go. Just power through. 5K?
A half marathon. The Oak Barrel half is
13.1. My bad. Half marathon.
Great race. Mile 3 is conveniently known in Lynchburg or in tri-counties here as Whiskey Hill. And there will be no running on Whiskey Hill. This will be my third time in this race. I don't think I've got above half a mile an hour at any point on Whiskey Hill. It is not for the faint of heart.
Well, I will be thinking about you while I'm out on.
And rain or shine, too. Who knows? It could be my first ever, half in the rain and thunderstorms. We'll see what tomorrow brings, right?
I've got a friend who ran in the Music City half, and the one time that he did it, it rained, and he was wet in places he didn't know you could get wet in by the time it was over with. It's awful. I felt bad for him, but I did not run. So, have fun with that. I'll be thinking about you while I'm out on some baseball field somewhere making kids cry.
Weather permitting.
Yeah, there's that. With that said, we are looking forward to the weekend, rain or shine, and we've got a great show to get you ready for it. In the second hour, we will be joined by, as producer Mark pointed out, the stranger, TERESA Walker of the Associated Press, coming in to talk a little women's Final Four, as we've got national semifinal matchups tonight and the championship game on Sunday. So we'll talk a little bit about that with T. In the next segment, we will be joined from Lawrenceville, Georgia, by Nashville Sounds radio play-by-play guy Jeff Hem, talking little Sounds as they continue their series down at Gwinnett against the Stripers, and getting some thoughts about the Sounds, the Brewers, the Stripers, and the Braves, because the Braves have a couple of guys that will hopefully be getting across town to Truist Park here before too long. So we'll get some insight from Jeff on all that. We'll also be talking some Braves as they begin their 155-game season tonight at home against Miami.
There you go. Now you're talking. We're getting you a dash of optimism. There we go.
There we go. Home opener, season opener, as far as I'm concerned, against the Marlins tonight. We'll talk some other Major League Baseball, talk some hoops as well. A in-state program is deserving of congratulations after some events from last night. Took a little longer than they would have hoped, but we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll get you ready for the Final Four this weekend as well. And it is the weekend warm-up. There is a lot going on this weekend. Nashville soccer's on the road. You got SEC baseball cranking up. You've got the Cats back in action this evening. We will get into all of that and then some. So, again, plenty to get to. Great weekend. The weather may or may not necessarily cooperate, but it's going to be a great weekend anyway. So let's enjoy that and let's get ready for it. Let's start, Wade, with yesterday's results and this weekend schedule on the Rundown.
This is the Rundown.
Buckle up, boys and girls. It is time for your Friday rundown, and that means we start with baseball scores from last night. We kicked things off with Anderson County defeating Portland 15-9. Forest was a 2-0 victor over Richland. It was Lawrence County out of Kentucky defeating Fulton High School 14-5. It was Knoxville Halls topping Lawrence County, Kentucky, putting some respect on Tennessee's name, as it were. 5-3 was your final there. Other score last night, Eagleville picks up a nice win, 12-4 over Lenoir City. In softball action, I told you guys it was Mule Day weekend. Columbia keeping the good vibe. 4 victory in softball action last night to peel us on into the weekend. It was Middle Tennessee Christian with a 3-2 victory over Providence Christian last night. Again, softball scores here. Smyrna with an 11-2 win over North Sand Mountain out of Alabama. Smyrna also defeated Bob Jones, Alabama, 4-3. And in soccer action last night, high school affairs, it was Hewitt-Trussville, Alabama defeating Columbia 3-0. Hazel Green, Alabama, and Columbia Academy played to a 2-2 draw. And Rockvale all over St. George's last night. 5-1 was your final.
Major League Baseball action from Thursday. The Houston Astros travel north to the Twin Cities and pick up a 5-2 win over Minnesota. The Grizzlies finally snap out of their little 3-game funk with a 110-108 win over Miami. On the ice, the Predators looked really solid for 2 periods, but they played 3. Dallas scores 4 goals in the third and wins it 5-1 on home ice. And again, the Nashville Sounds snap a 4-game skid with a 5-1 win yesterday down at Gwinnett.
That gets us into Friday action, folks, and baseball has begun as we signed on this afternoon. North Vigo, Indiana was on the road at Lawrence County out of Lawrenceburg, Tennessee at 2 p.m. today. Hamilton, Southeastern Indiana taking on Mount Juliet. Again, those were both 2 p.m. start times. A 4 o'clock showdown for Laverne at Cane Ridge. A doubleheader this evening beginning at 4 as Culleoka heads over to Wayne County. Ezel Harding will travel to Antioch beginning our matchups at 4:30. Other 4:30 starts include Franklin at CPA, Watertown at Cannon County, Hamilton, Southeastern Indiana at Dixon County. Nashville Christian is on the road tonight at Good Pasture. Eagleville is on the road at CAK. These games now beginning all at 5 p.m. Portland at Lenoir City. Cookville is on the road at Ravenwood tonight. Hickman County hitting the road for a trip to Zion Christian. Westmoreland at Allen County, Kentucky. 5:30 start time between White House on the road tonight at Upperman. And 6 p.m. first pitches between Nolensville, who is at Blackman. Hillsboro is on the road at Gallatin. Good Pasture traveling to Grace Christian Franklin. Columbia will visit Lawrence County this evening. Collinwood on the road tonight at Mount Pleasant. Moore County will come to Richland this evening. Smyrna is on the road at Oakland. And Siegel caps our 6 p.m. window with a short trip across town to meet Riverdale.
That trip is never short. If you've tried to go across Murfreesboro that time of day, it's not short. 6:30 start for Stewart's Creek at Centennial over here in Cool Springs. Also at 6:30, Middle Tennessee Christian is at Grace Christian of Knoxville. I hope that's 6:30 here. Anyway, also 6:30 start, the Battle of Robertson County. Springfield travels to Greenbrier. Father Ryan makes a short trip to Overton at 6:30. Columbia Academy is over at Providence Christian. That's a 6:30 start. And Siegel's got problems because they are scheduled for a 6:30 game at home against Independence in addition to that 6 o'clock game at Riverdale. Davidson Academy is at White House Heritage at 6:30. Page goes to Battle Creek at 6:30. At 7, more problems. Centennial is at Christ Presbyterian Academy. Franklin Community is at Dixon County at 7. Summit is at Green Hill. Sycamore goes to Hendersonville. Summertown is at Lawrence County. Lebanon is hosting Stone Memorial at 7:30. Portland plays Oak Ridge. Also, Avon of Indiana takes on host Clarksville Academy. No time listed for Collins, Kentucky, and Eagleville, or for Scotts Hill at Loretta. In softball action, 4 o'clock, first pitch. Clarksville Christian is at West Creek. At 4:30, Franklin Road Academy is at Columbia Academy. Also at 4:30, Loretto goes across the river, taking on Lexington. 5 o'clock starts for Forest at Friendship Christian. Hickman County at Mount Pleasant. Columbia Central at Stratford. At 5:30, Lawrence County of Alabama faces Coffee County. Also at 5:30, Summertown plays Creekwood. And Clarksville Christian is at Todd County Central out of Kentucky at 7. Wade, you're on mute.
It's unfortunate because I was getting ready to inform everybody. I don't know how Giles County and Columbia Academy I know how. Looking out the window here in Pulaski the last couple of days. Don't know why they would go down to Foley, Alabama and play a noon kickoff, but that's exactly what they did. Again, Giles County and Columbia Academy both taking part in action down at the Southern Coast Cup in Foley this weekend. We'll try and get you a final here in just a moment. At 3 o'clock today, MUS will meet Columbia. 4:30 kickoff between Farragut at Gallatin. 6 p.m. showdown for Westmoreland, who's at York Institute. Also at 6, Lawrence County will be at Hardin County. 7 p.m. tonight, Franklin will be at Page. Hazel Green, Alabama will meet Columbia Academy. Double dose for the Bulldogs tonight, again at 7 p.m. versus Hazel Green. Westmore out of Oklahoma will meet Rockvale at 7. Also at 7, Laverne is at Wilson Central. 8 o'clock showdown tonight for Hendersonville, who is at Bearden. Major League Baseball action tonight. The Marlins are at the Braves. 6:15 will be your start time. You can catch it on either FanDuel Sports South or MLB Network. We've talked about the Sounds a couple of times already. They'll be in action at 6:05 this evening, and we'll catch up with Jeff here in just a matter of moments. While we're talking baseball, let's cruise into the weekend schedule. Saturday affairs beginning at 10 a.m. as Middle Tennessee Christian is at CAK. At noon, Waverly travels to Innsworth. Mount Juliet Christian is on the road at Pope John Paul II. Other noon start times include Stewart's Creek at Blackman, Columbia Academy at Columbia. Smack dab in the middle of Mule Day right there, Mo. 1:30 will be your showdown time between Beach at Dixon County, Eagleville at Oak Ridge. At 2 p.m., you can catch Springfield at Pearl Cone, Wilson Central at Rockvale. Mount Juliet will travel to Clarksville at 2, and at 5 o'clock, Sycamore is at Clarksville Academy. Final baseball game on the schedule at 6 p.m., Muscle Shoals, Alabama. We'll head to Lawrenceburg to meet the Lawrence County Wildcats. Just one softball game on the schedule as we show it. Begins at 9 a.m., and it'll be Clarksville Christian at East Robertson tomorrow morning.
Saturday soccer. It's an 8:30 first touch for McGill-Tulane out of Alabama and Columbia Central. At 10:30, Baker of Alabama faces Rockvale. At 12 noon, it's Madison County of Alabama and Columbia Academy. 12:30, it'll be Greenville and Gallatin facing off. Also at 12:30, Hazel Green and Giles County will meet. Giles County, one more game. I would assume this is the 7 o'clock nightcap as the Bobcats take on Brubaker Tech out of Alabama.
Real quick, Mo, got an update. That CA Giles County game we were touting beginning at noon. Actually going to start at 7 o'clock tonight. So if you still got time to drive to the beach if you want to catch that game if you're a Bobcat or Bulldog fan tonight.
Hey, any excuse. Any excuse. Boys soccer on Saturday. CAK and Green Hill will face off. That's a 5:30 start there. I'm sorry. Boys lacrosse. Is that what I said? Boys lacrosse. Okay. Sumner County flag football action tomorrow. 9 o'clock, it's Hendersonville and Station Camp. At 10, it's Portland and Station Camp. At 11, it's Beach and White House. Also at 11, it's Westmoreland at Liberty Creek. Beach is at Liberty Creek at 12 noon, and White House and Westmoreland will play at 12 noon. Major League Soccer action. The Nashville Soccer Club heads east, taking on Charlotte. That's a 1:30 first touch Nashville time. It can be seen on Apple TV. And in the association, the Grizzlies trying to put something together here late, traveling to the Motor City, taking on the Pistons. That is a 6 o'clock start. You can see it on NBA TV and on FanDuel Sports.
Other games this weekend, the Astros and Twins will pick their series back up at 1:10 tomorrow. You can see it locally in Houston or on MLB TV. Other action, the Marlins and Braves continue at 6:15. It'll also be shown on FanDuel Sports South once again. 5:05 start time tomorrow as the Sounds continue their series at Gwinnett. That brings us into Sunday, where Nashville and Gwinnett will meet at 12:05. More Major League Baseball action resuming on Sunday. The Marlins and Braves will begin at 12:35 on FanDuel Sports South. And once again, if you got MLB extra innings, Astros at Twins at 1:10 p.m., on Sunday. But wait, there's more. On Sunday, the Canadians will come to Nashville to take on the Preds. That puck drop is set for 6 o'clock, and you can see that contest on FanDuel Sports South. That brings us to the end of the weekend schedule. And ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the Friday Rundown.
Your top story brought to you as always by the fine folks over at Piggly Wiggly and Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch items available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. A few weeks ago, it was announced that Mike Keith would be succeeding Bob Kessling as the voice of the Vols, the longtime Tennessee Titans radio voice, heading back east to his alma mater. Well, he's got some company now. The university announced late yesterday that joining him for the volunteer football broadcast will be analyst Ramon Foster, former UT offensive lineman who spent a bulk of his career with the Pittsburgh Steelers in the National Football League. Co-host Jason Swain continues as co-host with the program, and longtime sideline reporter Brent Hubbs remains in that capacity as well. So it'll be Mike and Ramon in the booth, and you feel like that's going to be a lot of fun. Ramon brings a lot of juice to everything that he does, and obviously with his experience both at the University of Tennessee and in the National Football League, got a lot of insight there from the offensive line position, and those guys typically are some of the smartest guys on the field. So should be a lot of fun listening to those two together.
Absolutely. And, we've talked a lot about Bob and his departure and kind of the new regime. And this was kind of the last little bit of the puzzle that still had to be put together as far as what Vol football broadcast would look like next year. And, man, to me, it seems like you knocked it out of the park. You didn't have to look too far. In terms of Swain and Hubbs, obviously didn't have to look very far at all. So you just bring Ramon up from Nashville and kind of slide the big ragu in there and let things rock and roll. I feel like the vibes are quietly, or maybe not so quietly, coming together in a big way, and Tennessee undoubtedly is going to probably blow this thing out of the water. I feel like they knocked this out of the park.
I 100% agree. And, one of the biggest things the University of Tennessee has going for them, I think, is their ability to stay in-house to some degree with these type hires, to be able to bring in people who have natural, organic ties to the university, to those programs, that kind of thing. Nobody is going to care more about Tennessee football than Ramon Foster or Jason Swain. Brent Hubbs has been there for 30 plus years. Obviously Mike, it's his alma mater, it's home. And I think that's going to come through in everything that they do. And I think that's to the fans' benefit. I think that's to the broadcast benefit. And this is a win-win for everybody involved, I think.
Yeah, no doubt. Like you said, that net, in a perfect world, you keep things in-house just for the entertainment value and kind of the homer factor. I mean, there is an element of you got to be a homer to an extent when you're talking about a locally produced broadcast, whether it's high school or certainly at the collegiate level. Maybe you blur the line more toward professionalism when you get to the NFL, or a neutral broadcast, if you will. But that's what sells, is folks don't want to tune in and listen to somebody that they're not familiar with, that kind of maybe quote unquote doesn't respect or understand the tradition. And this is great news coming. And man, Mike is coming out guns a-blazing, Mo. We talked about the guests he had on his debut show last Thursday, and he went right back to it. Had Tony V, John Gruden, and Ramon himself on the show to kind of really break the news yesterday. So episode 2 of the Mike Key Show's living up to the hype from episode 1, and Tennessee continues to make – a lot of schools could push this, or maybe not push this announcement as far as Tennessee is doing, but I love what they are doing. They are using it as another tool to kind of raise excitement for the Vols next year.
Without question. Mike, you knew was going to knock it out of the park when he went back over there, and so far that certainly seems to be the case, and I don't think anybody that knows him is surprised. So great news. Let's take a break here on the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we will be joined by the voice of the Nashville Sounds, Jeff Him. Stick around.
Step into the Lionel retail store at Opry Mills, Nashville, and you'll be captivated by all the magic of the 123-year history of Lionel trains. Whether you're already a train enthusiast or just getting started, Lionel will energize your love for trains. NASCAR fan? Come check out your local Lionel station to learn all there is to know about model trains and die-cast NASCAR collectibles. Visit nashville.lionel.com or call 615-455-9399.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
The weekend warm-up continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely, and we are pleased to be joined from Lawrenceville, Georgia, by the voice of the Nashville Sounds, Jeff Him. The Sounds are down in the series against the Gwinnett Stripers. 1P, just for you, Jeff. They broke a 4-game skid with yesterday's 5-1 win because they had lost the early 2 games in this series and dropped the final 2 games of their initial series at First Horizon Park against the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. So Nashville got things looking up. That's the good news. The bad news, Jeff, if what you told me earlier in the week is accurate, tonight's starter for the Gwinnett Stripers, Spencer Strider.
Yes. Hello, guys. Happy Friday. Thank you for having me. And yes, first of all, Sounds needed that one last night. They finally got some big hits with runners in scoring position. They were 3 for 33 in that department in the first 5 games of the year. And
sounds familiar, Jeff.
Well, it's I mean, it's first, and we'll talk Brewers and Braves on that front in just a second because I'm guessing that's where you're going. But Sounds got some big hits last night. Ernesto Martinez came through with a 2-run single, and then Jorge Alfaro right after that hit a 2-run homer, and that was after they'd stranded guys in scoring position each of the first 2 innings. So a 4-run 3rd inning last night, and I could almost feel the dugout's collective deep breath from here in the booth when that happened last night. Logan Henderson pitched well. It was a really clean, solid game and a much-needed win for the Sounds last night. To your second point, yes, Spencer Strider is on the bump tonight for Gwinnett. This is going to be his 2nd rehab start. He threw 60 pitches for them in Charlotte last weekend. So I don't have this officially, but usually that means 70 to 75 in the next one. So 4 to 5 innings, you would think potentially for Strider. He went 3 innings in Charlotte last weekend. I know he had a very good spring training in the limited innings that he was on the mound. And obviously this is a massive arm for the Braves to try to get back. His battery mate tonight is going to be Sean Murphy, who will now play in his 3rd game of his rehab assignment. Briefly a Sound for the A's at the end of 2018, and more notably to folks in Middle Tennessee, a Braves All-Star. Murphy coming back from the fractured rib cage from spring training. So pretty important battery here tonight for Gwinnett with Strider and Murphy. And then, as if that was not enough, Alex Verdugo is going to debut for Gwinnett tonight. I don't have to tell Braves fans, but he signed late in spring training. And so he has not quite, got an abbreviated spring training and just getting him some at bats. I don't know if he'll be here the rest of the weekend. I don't know if he'll be here just tonight, but he is in their lineup, batting second and playing in right field for the Stripers. So the Sounds are going to face Strider. They'll deal with Murphy and Verdugo. And they'll do it with Evan McKendry on the mound tonight because, as we found out here mid-game last night from Brewers beat reporters who were tweeting what they were seeing in the Brewers clubhouse, Carlos Rodriguez is up there with the Brewers. He was going to start down here, but the Brewers need starting pitching. They're going to go with Tyler Alexander tonight against the Reds, but it's yet to be seen if they're going to activate Carlos and use him either as a starter or reliever, or go a day or so. If they don't need him, they could send him back. We could still see him pitch here in Gwinnett this weekend, but he's basically on standby right now, and he was going to start tonight. And so it'll be McKendry making his season debut up against Strider. So a lot going on, but to the kind of the joke you made about the runners in scoring position, I talked a lot about it the other night when this series began. Now the Brewers have won 3 in a row. They're getting it going a little bit, but eerily similar for the Sounds and their situation with the Brewers to what Gwinnett looks like and is dealing with for the Braves. You've got the Brewers and Braves, 2 teams that are regularly in the playoffs, 2 teams with expectations to do that again this year, 2 teams who signed some guys late in the spring, like Verdugo and Kimbrel for the Braves. And for the Brewers, Jose Quintana, who they're trying to ramp up and get ready. Both teams have some key guys who are hurt. And both teams had AAA teams that got up to a slow start in their opening weekend. So just a lot of storylines for guys like me to yap about while we're on the air and calling a ball game, just because it's just crazy how similar it was early for the Brewers and the Braves. Now, the Brewers have ironed things out. The Braves, and having to deal with the Dodgers, had a little bit different story. And now they'll have their home opener tonight against the Marlins, where you would think things could go a little bit better this weekend for the Braves.
From your lips to the baseball god's ears, Jeff. Yeah, you would definitely think that. Jeff Helm, the Sounds play-by-play announcer, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Jeff, we talked a little bit about the Brewers last week, or Wade and I talked about the Brewers earlier this week, I guess, coming out of their ill-fated series against the Yankees, where they gave up 36 runs and 15 homers. And, there was a lot of talk coming out of that series about the torpedo bats. And Wade made a very salient point. Maybe it wasn't the Yankee bats, maybe it was the Brewer arms. But to your point, the Brewers have come on here over the past few games, and obviously it's a short sample size this early in the season. But, as you are obviously covering the Sounds, what vibe are you getting out of Milwaukee?
I'm getting a vibe where they were frustrated but not panicking. I think it was multiple factors in that series in New York. One, the Yankees are just really good. That is a heck of a lineup. Now, yes, the Brewers also could have hit home runs because the conditions are the same for everybody. But my understanding is the wind was blowing out quite a bit at Yankee Stadium, at least in that first day. Again, you still have to make contact and all that, but there was favorable conditions in that regard. Sure, the torpedo bats doesn't sound like they can hurt from what I continue to read and hear about them, but to put it all on the torpedo bats is not giving the Yankees enough credit, because especially I don't think Aaron Judge even uses that bat. So, and the Brewers just had a bad weekend. I mean, Nestor Cortez looked much better the other night for the Brewers, and he's a guy who's not going to overwhelm you with velocity. So on those occasions where he does leave it out over the plate, it can get hit like that. So I think all of those things were at play for the Brewers in that opening weekend. The Yankees are really good, I think, is the biggest factor of all of it. And the Brewers just did not have a great opening weekend. I'll put money on Freddie Peralta doing Freddie Peralta things more so than having a lot of outings like he had on opening day. And he went 8 innings in his last one for the Brewers. So I think they've gotten a little bit of their feet under them. But down here, I don't think that the Brewers organization was at least showing to anybody down here at AAA any kind of panic. They might have been showing frustration, but I don't think panic is a word I would use for the Brewers.
Jeff, dumb question. Is there any minor league torpedo bat action going on that you've heard?
It's funny. I'd never heard of these bats until that.
I don't know that anybody had.
Between the Brewers and the Yankees. So I am not going to come on here and tell you I've now gone to the bat rack and counted. I don't think so. And I now it's like every broadcaster covering any baseball team around the country is now having to ask all these questions of like, are you using it? Have you heard of it? Do you like it? But I've not gotten the sense that these are widely used in the Brewers organization. And I know from reading some comments from some Brewers players after that weekend, like Reese Hoskins was talking about it, they're intrigued by it enough from what they saw with the Yankees to at least guys wanting to try it. But my understanding, not even understanding, I know players are very particular about their bats. So if a guy wants to start trying a torpedo bat, it's not something that's going to happen in a day or so. These guys, I mean, their bat is their baby, and they, you find a particular weight and feel and type. You don't switch off of that just because you might go 0 for 5 one day or have a bad weekend. So the vibe I got from the torpedo bat topic for guys who weren't currently using it is like, okay, I might order a couple and I might try it a little bit in batting practice. I might try it for a couple of weeks behind the scenes or in the cage and see if it's something that I like, even if they're told, hey, bigger barrel, better chance to make this contact or that contact. It still has to be a feel thing and a fit thing for a player. So the story has dominated the baseball hitting news cycle, but I don't know that it's all of a sudden going to go to 90% of guys are using torpedo bats.
And to your point, Jeff, this is the one sport where you could give mountains of data to a player, and they might still look at that Old Faithful and say, "Nah, this is the bat I'm using." Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a field thing. I mean, you can show a guy, and he could watch his teammate go 5 for 5 with 4 homers with a particular bat. That other player could then try to borrow that player's bat and be like, "Yeah, I just don't feel it with this one." It's just that they're very particular about it. They generally don't change their bat very often. Whether that's
certainly not in the middle of a season, right?
No,
probably not.
Yeah, they don't change it very often. Whether that's the producer of the bat, the weight of the bat, the length of the bat, it takes quite a bit for a guy to change off of their bat, especially when they're at AAA. They've gotten this far, they're established. But again, if the Yankees do this all year and they just absolutely obliterate home run records, I'm sure more players will perk up from it and want to try it, but that doesn't automatically mean they're going to switch to it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Jeff Hem, Sounds play-by-play announcer, joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Again, the Sounds dropped 2 of their last 3 at First Horizon, dropped 2 of their first 3 against Gwinnett here, and they come back home Tuesday for what I feel like, Jeff, is the earliest the Sounds have played Memphis that I can remember.
Yeah, I know we went there early last year, but hosting them, I think you're right. I don't know that they've come to us this early in a season in a while. I remember them coming in late last year and maybe 4th of July-ish the year before. But yeah, and I want to say last year, Gwinnett was similar, where like we always talk about how big league baseball fans in Middle Tennessee follow a lot of the Braves and the Reds and the Cardinals. And so we are well aware as the Sounds front office when the parent clubs are involved of the teams the Sounds are playing. And I feel like it was late last year for some of the more popular road teams in a sense that might come through. So yeah, it'll be good to have the Redbirds coming in early. And then the Sounds come back here to Gwinnett in a few weeks too. The first 3 trips are here, which is just kind of odd. They don't come to us, I don't think, until like late June. So you're going to get me going, Mo, on our schedule here, and it's going to get me on an hour-long tangent about how odd it is again this year, and I'll try not to do that. But it will be nice to have the Redbirds coming in for a little Sounds, Memphis, and Brewers Cardinals series next week.
Jeff, this is more of a question, I guess, for Adam English, but do the dogs on Tail Wagging Tuesday, they get counted toward the attendance? Just something I've just randomly thought about today.
They typically get counted separately. And sometimes we'll hear 7,222 humans and 186 dogs or something like that.
Perfect delivery.
Yeah,
Yes.
and my understanding is they don't get counted as humans because they are on a separate ticket, quite literally, so that we can help the respective animal nonprofit that the dog ticket proceeds are going to. But I just like that that's where your mind is, Wade. We're ready for a Tito's Tail Wagging Tuesday, I can tell.
Went to a couple last year and it was a blast. I got to miss this Tuesday, but I'm already revved up for when Durham comes to town at the end of the month for that one. It's a fun event, and everybody has a good time. Yeah, I was just wondering about the attendance. If you're looking for a fluff on the numbers, it seems like a good way to do it, perhaps.
Yeah, count the dogs. We'll take that under consideration. But my understanding is that is not part of the official total, typically on a Tuesday night.
I like the fact that we do have the detail, though, of how many dogs there are specifically. So
they definitely count that because, like I said, every dog ticket, all the proceeds of every dog ticket go to whichever local animal nonprofit we are helping on that particular Tuesday. So the ticket office definitely is tabulating the dog tickets so that we can get the right donation to the nonprofit. But I don't believe they're counting toward the official attendance number for that night.
Jeff, when we spoke with you last week, you mentioned that Brewer Hicklin had been designated for assignment at that time. I think has he been has his situation gotten any clearer? What do we know about Brewer right now?
Yeah,
we really enjoyed him.
No, he's a great guy, and my goodness, 20 homers and 40 steals last year. The first player ever in Sounds history, 46 years of Sounds baseball. Nobody had ever had a 20-40 season. So that's a big bat to have at AAA. The Brewers ended up working out a trade for Brewer to the Tigers, and they optioned him to Toledo. And in fact, the schedule. The Sounds don't even play everybody in the IL this year. Like, we do not play Toledo, so there's no way for us to see Brewer Hicklin. And yet there is some experimentation this year with cross AAA play. Toledo right now is in Round Rock, Texas, playing a Pacific Coast League team, our old friends, the Express. And Durham is hosting Sugarland right now, a PCL versus IL matchup. So the Sounds don't have that on their schedule. Again, it's this MLB component of let's see what the teams think. Let's see how it goes. Let's see what the feedback is. Maybe someday it's a wider AAA league and not two leagues. I have no idea. But the Sounds play about half of the 19 other teams in our league. And yet there are some IL teams playing teams in the Pacific Coast League. Where I'm going with that is Brewer Hicklin actually batted against our old pal Caleb Bosley last night, because the Boz is with Round Rock for the Rangers. And so two Sounds fan favorites were facing off against each other last night with Toledo being in Round Rock and Brewer Hicklin facing Caleb Bosley. But that's where Brewer is. He's at AAA now for the Tigers. And hopefully he gets a shot with them. That's what I love about how this game works. Like, these MLB organizations are trying to do what they can every time for the best of the player. And there are times where the big league team just kind of has to give a brutal truth to somebody of hey, we don't have a spot for you, or we don't see you in this part of our future, or this is where our depth chart looks, or whatever. And then when there's an opportunity to move a guy, it doesn't mean you don't like him, but sometimes there's just a better opportunity for the player somewhere else. And so the Tigers, it sounds like, had a need and an interest for a guy like Hicklin. And the Brewers found a way to work out that deal for some cash considerations so that everybody can win. Hicklin stays on a 40-man roster. He's in a new spot with a new chance to prove himself. And the outfield is just crowded for the Brewers when you've got Churio and Frelick and Mitchell and Yelich. That's just a tough group to crack right now. And they don't even have Blake Perkins right now. So for Hicklin, we're sad that he's gone, and the Sounds lineup is not as good if Brewer Hicklin's not here, but the goal is the big leagues. And so Brewer Hicklin, I think, has a better shot to get to Detroit than he had to get to Milwaukee, at least an extended opportunity. I'll say that.
Yeah. And again, for everything that you just said, this sounds like it's great for Brewer, but yeah, it feels like as much as the Brewers have been bitten by the injury bug historically, you might want a guy like that around because you kind of never know, but maybe it feels like there's enough depth that he would still have a tough time getting through.
No doubt. I mean, this is where the teams that can't predict the future have to try to predict the future a little bit because, yeah, it's like you have depth until you don't, right? And everybody, I mean, the Brewers are being tested on that right now at the big league level with pitching. 2 months ago, it's like, oh man, the Sounds are loaded in starting pitching. The Brewers are going to be loaded in starting pitching. But now the Brewers right now are without Aaron Savali, Tobias Myers, Aaron Ashby, DL Hall. They're hoping to get Brandon Woodruff by the end of May. They've got a rotation's worth of injured starting pitching. And so we've seen Chad Patrick go up. We see Carlos Rodriguez on standby. So your depth can get tested very quickly. But again, the 40-man roster is a whole different puzzle that you only have so many spots. And, the Brewers needed a spot for Jake Bauers. And so that had the trickle-down effect of Hicklin getting designated for assignment. And then he works out the trade. So teams get into these different crunches at different times. And, you never know. In July, something could change where the Brewers feel like they've got an open 40-man spot and they bring a guy back. We have seen that happen before. So you never say never and you never close the book. It's just sometimes these big league teams have to go in the very near term, even if they know they take a little bit of a hit in losing a guy on depth of a certain position. It's just the trickle-down effect of something from another position. And I think that's what happened here for the Crew.
Jeff, I'm really intrigued by this PCL IL crossover kind of thing. I mean, is this a precursor to the return of the American Association, maybe, or what are we doing?
Yeah, I don't know, other than I know that it is a toe in the water from the scheduling of trying to see what teams think about it. I mean, again, this maybe isn't the most interesting conversation for a fan to hear about schedules and travel and things like that. But I mean, I know you've followed and covered the Sounds for a long time. You've seen different iterations of their schedule and who their opponents are. And when we were in the PCL, it's like, can't you just put the Sounds in the IL? They could play Louisville and Indianapolis, and now that's happening, and that makes perfect sense. They're geographically, though, because of the way the AAA teams are spread out over the country, you've got you could, like Durham playing Sugar Land. I don't know it by the mileage, but my guess would be that there are some IL teams for Durham to go play that are farther away geographically than it was for Sugar Land to go from Texas to go play in Durham. And, the Sounds don't play Rochester and Buffalo. And we do go to Scranton this year, but we have not played Buffalo or Rochester or Worcester or teams up in that northeast corner. Geographically, there are some Pacific Coast League teams that are shorter travel than it would be to go up there, even though that's not like worlds away. So it's this balance of like, okay, what's the focus here? Is it truly to just play your division as many times as possible? Is it play your league as many times as possible? Is it play the teams closest? The part that gets me, though, is we barely play the Louisville Bats this year. They come to us once, we go there once. That's 2.5 hours away, and we play them a total of 12 times. So it's a little bit interesting to see that, and then to see Durham hosting Sugar Land, and you're like, and then I'm asking the same thing you just said, Mo, like, what are we doing here? So I don't know, other than it's a toe in the water to see how it plays out, what teams think. And we'll just, I don't know. We'll see in 2026. Did the Sounds go back to playing Oklahoma City like we used to? But I would, and I loved many of these stops in the PCL. I wish we still went to some of them. However,
some of them.
I mean, no, honest to God, like I would say all of them. I enjoyed every single stop. I swear. I don't know why I said many. But my point is, while it'd be fun to go back there, first, let me see all other teams in the league that you put us in. You moved us from the PCL to the IL. So, like, as fun as it would be to go back to seeing Round Rock, well, Buffalo is a team that the Sounds are competing with for a playoff spot. Shouldn't we go to Buffalo first? And that's just kind of where. But again, when you got a 10-team PCL and a 20-team International League, I'm sure there are teams in the PCL that are saying, hey, could we play one of those teams instead of playing this team 20 times a year? Right. So Go figure. You've got. It's just when you're going to have 20 in one league and 10 in another, there's not going to be a perfect situation.
Not at all. Not at all. And, it would seem like as many bright minds as there are involved with Major League Baseball, you could figure out a way for everybody to play everybody, if not in one season, maybe over a 3-year rotation or something like that. I mean,
yeah, that's an idea that I like. It's like, hey, you got 30 teams. You're not going to play everybody, or hey, Sounds, you're not going to go to Albuquerque every year, but every other year you're going to see Albuquerque. And then every other year, Albuquerque might play Worcester or something. And from a player development standpoint, I would think the MLB teams would like that, because it's like, hey, we want our AAA team to have some familiarity with some of these guys in case we ever need to work out a trade with that organization. We can source out some information about players and from a scouting standpoint. But again, then you start to spread it out, and then you're getting back to the pre-COVID days where it was like, does it really make sense for the Sounds to fly hours upon hours to go up to Tacoma when they could play Durham, which is an hour flight? So what's the goal? They've got to figure out what is the goal and work the schedule off of that. And I think they're still trying to figure out what that goal is, to be honest. So I don't know.
It's wild.
It
Jeff,
is.
we appreciate you sharing all of your insight with us, man. And bring back. It's tough for me to say this, but I mean, I know that Strider isn't going to go the distance. So, maybe he looks good when he's in there, and then y'all do something against the bullpen before Kimbrel gets in. So, you've got like the 6th, 7th, 8th is kind of the Sound sweet spot ideally.
Okay.
And
well, couldn't two things be true? Couldn't the Sound score 4 runs against Spencer Strider, but I could also tell you that he looked great? Like that, those two things can be true, or is it?
Those two things can be true. That's fair enough. That's fair.
Okay. As long as he gets to Atlanta healthy and quickly, you're good with whatever damage the Sounds might do against him, right, Mo?
You're absolutely right.
Okay. Just making sure.
There we go. Jeff Ham, the voice of the Nashville Sounds, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Jeff, we appreciate you. We'll talk to you soon.
See you guys.
Thank you, Jeff.
Let's take a break and let's continue the baseball talk here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Stay tuned.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA.
April 4th, 1974. With one out, Mike Lum and Ralph Garce, Hank Aaron gave the Atlanta Braves an early 3-0 lead with his first inning home run off Cincinnati's Jack Billingham. The homer was the Hammer's first of the season and the 714th of his career, tying the major league record set by Babe Ruth. Despite the early cushion, the Braves would go on to drop a 7-6, 11-inning decision to the Reds in the season opener for both squads. That was this day in Braves history. Newsflash, Hank Aaron's sneaking up on something here. Stick around next week. Again, the Braves open their 155-game season at home tonight against the visiting Miami Marlins. Max Meyer, no decisions with a 1.59 earned run average, getting the start for Miami. It'll be Spencer Schwellenbach, no record and no ERA. Pitched well in his first start, though, against San Diego. Getting the start tonight and, looking for some good things out of him. We talked about Spencer Strider making his way back to Atlanta, doing a rehab down at Gwinnett right now. But when he gets back with Lopez out, more on that in a second, Sale, Strider, Schwellenbach is a 1-2-3 that, you feel pretty good about, I think.
Yeah, you'll take those odds, and if the back end can kind of hold up their end of the bargain, if the offense can get going, you should be in pretty good shape to string together some wins with those three alone, and you'll kind of almost take what the rest, what you get. So a chance to hope springs eternal today for the folks in Hotlanta.
Absolutely. AJ Smith-Shawver gets the start in tomorrow's 6:15 game, and then on Sunday at 12:35, the series finale, it'll be Grant Holmes against Sandy Alcantara. Good luck, Braves, with that one. Sandy looked pretty good in spring training himself after coming off of some surgery, and it was kind of thought that Miami might be shopping him around a little bit, but as of right now, he's still in the Marlins uniform. Go make it happen, Anthopoulos.
Hey, real quick, you don't have to worry, though. I know we talked about, you want to see Strider do well in the minors, and we want to cheer for our local guys. You won't see Weathers this weekend, but we do have an update on the injured Ryan Weathers. A couple days ago, they announced that he's scheduled and ramped up his throwing progression, kind of suffered that late left forearm injury in spring training, and they stashed him on the 15-day injured list. So won't see him this weekend, which is good for you and Braves fans that also root for the Loretto Mustangs, but you will see him at some point sooner than later, it sounds like.
I don't know that he has pitched in Atlanta yet. I think he was slated to and maybe had an injury that kept him from doing so. I think I hope he gets to pitch there here at some point sooner rather than later, to be honest, just because Loretto would probably empty out with him that close. So, and obviously hope for some extended health for him once he does get back, because he was really, really looking good last year before he had that finger situation that pretty well sidelined him for the rest of the season. So, yeah, thanks for that update, Wade. I had.
You can cheer freely this weekend.
Absolutely. Yeah. Is he with Jacksonville at this point, or is he down at their AA rehabbing? Do you know?
Looks like still just no, it does not list the designation, just says still recovering.
Oh, really?
So
all right.
Presumably just going to bounce right back. He was having a good offseason ball account. So yeah, you can cheer free of local ties this weekend versus the Marlins, who are sneaky 4-3 right now.
Yeah. And the Marlins, as bad as they have been at times, tend to give the Braves some problems. So we'll see how it goes. Alex was busy on the off day yesterday. Apparently the Braves decided that home run that Jesse Chavez gave up out in LA was more than they could stand. Jesse didn't stick around very long. He has been outrighted to AAA Gwinnett and declined that assignment. He is a free agent. That might be the last of Jesse, certainly in Atlanta, it feels like. Meanwhile, they also made a move to bring in former Pirates catcher Jason DeLay, acquired in exchange for cash considerations and optioned to Double-A Columbus. The Braves are collecting catchers, and there's kind of some question about what the mindset is, because they released former Vandy boy Kurt Casale out of spring training, but they've still got Sandy Leone. They signed James McCann here not too long ago, who had played with the Tigers and the Mets, among others. Obviously, Chadwick Tromp and Drake Baldwin are currently on the major league roster, and Sean Murphy making his way back on a rehab assignment at Gwinnett right now. So they've got a bunch of catchers with major league experience and really only room for 2 on the major league roster. So it's, you don't know if there's some sort of a trade. You don't know if they're going to try, Drake Baldwin in the outfield here before Acuna gets back, or what the situation is, but there's something going on, clearly.
Yeah, they've got a lot of moves that need to be kind of sorted out. The last thing you kind of would want is to have the record you have and then still have questions and kind of shuffling pieces around. You'd like to hopefully start stacking some wins and then kind of smooth things out.
Yeah, and hopefully the stacking of the wins begins tonight. Again, this 3-game series against a Miami team that, while they are 4-3, I don't know that they are necessarily expected to be a noisemaker in the NL East when all is said and done. Houston's schedule is bizarre, Wade, because they went to Minnesota yesterday, picked up a 5-2 victory despite an 0 for 5 strikeout performance by Jose Altuve. But they're off today. Then they play back-to-back 110 starts tomorrow and Sunday in Minnesota.
Savor the win, a chance to go to the Mall of America, a chance to go to the Prince store at the airport there. I mean, they could do some damage during this off day, but it was nice to get the win. That was an interesting game, especially with Correa coming up, and still some tension between those 2 parties involved there, the Astros and Correa. So it was good to see them get a win. Even though it wasn't the best performance at the plate, a forgettable day, to say the least, for Altuve, who did his best Jackson Churio impression with the 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts on opening day. We saw the former sound. So it was a tough sled for Jose, but Houston gets the win. I'll take a win any way I could get it for the team right now, who's just 3-4.
There you go. If you have to sacrifice Altuve going 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts to get a victory, you'll take that. Former Brave first baseman Freddie Freeman goes on the injured list. Apparently did something to the ankle that he had surgery on over the offseason, and injured it while stepping into the shower, but has been placed on the IL, retroactive to March 31st. It's crazy to think about highly tuned professional athletes and how they manage to hurt themselves sometimes.
Yeah, and this doesn't really feel like, he was out, quote unquote, washing his truck or anything.
Right.
Or it doesn't feel like Dustin Johnson at the Masters, slipping down the steps and having to withdraw. But man, Freddie, you got to get a placemat down in that shower, man. I mean, we're too old to be risking things like that. That's the number one killer, I feel like, of folks in America, is you slip and fall in a shower. That's a battle on a daily basis you got to be prepared for these days.
It is, and that's just a nightmarish scenario to think about as well. So let's not. We talked about Milwaukee getting themselves righted. They defeated Cincinnati 1-0 yesterday. It was Cincinnati's 3rd straight 1-0 loss. That has not happened in 65 years. The Philadelphia Phillies of 1960 were the last team to lose 3 straight 1-0 ball games.
Whew.
That's tough. It's one of those so close and yet so far kind of things, I guess. The Rangers got back-to-back 1-0 wins over Cincinnati. The latter with former Vandy boy Jack Leiter on the bump. So good for him, because Kumar Rocker got knocked around in his start a couple of days before Leiter went out and helped in a shutout against Cincinnati. But yeah, that's tough. I mean, especially with some of the bats that the Reds have in the lineup. Looking at you, Ellie De La Cruz.
Sounds like you got him on your fantasy team there, Mo.
No, I don't.
A little personal right there.
No, it kind of defies logic to me, and I sit here as a Braves fan whose team had just gone like with 2 runs in 31 innings, but 3 straight 1-0 losses. Just shoot me now. That's tough.
That is tough, and they had high hopes. That division, a lot of folks thought the Cubs were going to, not cakewalk, but probably win that one. And the Cardinals sit there at 4-2, but then Cincinnati certainly wanted to be better than 2-5. It feels like they had a little better start in mind, and that will keep you up at night. Those losses, that is no doubt,
without question. Meanwhile, it sounds as if the Tampa Bay Rays may be back at Tropicana Field next year. Yeah, St. Petersburg's City Council approved replacement at a cost of $22.5 million of the roof at Tropicana that was destroyed by Hurricane Milton last October. And trust me when I tell you, it was under duress. The city is contractually obligated to return the stadium to playable status for the Rays. But apparently somebody wasn't convinced with that either, or didn't care to hear that, because the vote was not unanimous by the city council in St. Petersburg. It was a 7-1 vote to appropriate, again, $22.5 million for a new Teflon-coated fiberglass roof made of the same material as the original. That's about half of the total cost estimated to fix the stadium of $55.7 million. So I don't know what happens with that other 33.2, but I guess the Rays or somebody will have to figure that out. Council member Brandy Gabbard said, "I'd much rather be spending that money on hurricane recovery and helping residents in our most affected neighborhoods, but this is our obligation." So
sounded like Councilman Carcetti on the wire. Kind of laying the facts out. But what I'm wondering, Mo, is if you're going to renovate and kind of do some work on the stadium, let's maybe shrink the number of total seats, or another theory, install some fake fans. That way, when the camera pans around, at least it doesn't look so depleted. We can do a lot with graphics and CGI now, so let's maybe just put in some fake fans so we can at least let the boys feel like they're playing in front of a big crowd finally.
Let it look like it, especially when they're on TV. Absolutely. So yeah, the Rays may be back at Tropicana next year.
Just when you thought you could, they were out the door. Not only are they coming back to the stadium. Sounds like
every time we thought we were out, we get pulled back in. Hour number 1 of the weekend update edition of Main Street Sports Today, the weekend warm-up, edition of Main Street Sports Today is in the books. Let's take a break. Let's come back. Let's get into hour number 2 after this.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vilai Saisuka, CEO and founder of Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee here in Murfreesboro. We offer foot and ankle care from ingrown toenails to diabetic foot wounds. We also fix ankle fractures and things like that.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Hour number 2 of the weekend warm-up begins right now here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. Congratulations to the Mocs of the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, he said begrudgingly. Chat wins the NIT, the first in the history of the Southern Conference, by defeating Cal Irvine 85-84 in overtime last night. Of course, as we've talked about on this show on various occasions, Chattanooga's run to the NIT title began with a 109-103 triple overtime victory at MTSU. So, is it fair to say that could have been us? I don't know. But, Chattanooga won by 6 in 3 overtimes at MTSU, went on and won the whole thing. So you feel like MTSU was probably pretty close.
Quite a few dots to connect there, but I'm walking with you a little bit there. But yeah, props for trying, and props to the Mocs for getting it done, and props to Big Maple, big number 21, Colin Mulholland, kind of bursting onto the scene. He had a great season, but then really kind of turned his play up a notch or two, it seemed like, in this tournament. And I'm not saying they were fans that were driving back from Hinkle, but I did see my share of UTC bumper stickers coming down 24 to Tim's Ford today. So props to the Mocs, who had not advanced beyond the Sweet 16 ever in NCAA tournament history, and they hadn't really won anything since the 70s, back when they were in a Division II status still. So, I mean, this has got to be celebrated. And I've said it with any tournament you're in, you're either in it for the right reasons or not. And if you're going to lose, you might as well lose early. And if you're going to win and go for it, you might as well win the whole thing. Props to them for getting it done.
Absolutely. And getting it done with one of their most recognizable alumni, Terrell Owens on the sideline. Make of that
That's
what you
big time.
will. Yeah. When we talked to Chip Walters, the voice of the Blue Raiders, going into that ball game, one of the guys that he mentioned was Frank Champion to, look out for UTC. Champion did not play in that game, had not played late in their season, did not play at all during this NIT run, but he was like the newcomer of the year in the SoCon this year. And it was his minutes that Mulholland was taken up that you mentioned there just a second ago. Finished with 19 points, 5 threes in that win last night. Chattanooga is one of those teams that lives by and dies by the three. They were passing up wide open layups in half court for threes. They finished 14 of 44 from behind the arc last night. Half of their field goals were three-pointers. Shot 28 of 76 overall. Again, 14 of 44 from behind the arc. That means 32 of their shots were not threes. But
Yeah,
I
head
guess
coach Dan Earl sounds like him and Nate Oates been hanging out, reminiscent of Alabama, the way that they were running and gunning. And yeah, Mulholland, Big Maple throws up. He shot 17 threes by himself, 5 of 17 in that effort last night. Crazy game. I didn't watch a single second of it, but just looking through this box score, I'm just kind of blown away. And UC Irvine, we talked with Chip, we talked with Joe. That's a sneaky good team. You know, you can make a strong case. They maybe wouldn't have got in, of course, they didn't get in, but you could have made at least an argument that they should have been on the radar, if nothing else, to make the NCAA tournament.
absolutely. I mean, Irvine finishes 32-7 with that loss last night. Chattanooga finishes up 29-9 with the win. And interesting, I'm watching that game during the second half, and one of the Anteaters guards, Miles Che, transferred into Irvine this season from Chattanooga.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's nuts. How does that happen? You transfer from a school and you wind up seeing them in the finals of the NIT. It's nuts. Congrats, though, again to Chattanooga. Great run there for them. And I'm sitting there thinking, Wade, and this is the time that we're in, obviously, but now you got to hold all that together if you're Dan Earls, right?
Yeah. I mean, like I've said, when a lot of folks are tuning into your game nowadays, that's not necessarily as good a thing as you may think with transfers. And best of luck to try and maintain. You know, props obviously for winning the tournament, and that's what you like to see. I mean, like I said, if you're going to sign up for it and participate, you might as well go for it. Michigan many moons ago under Tommy Amaker, that's what I was rooting for. To the NIT championship game a couple of times. I mean, you take the little victories, and for a program like Chattanooga, that's massive. They finished in the top 100 in KenPom. They were ranked 44th in offense, so we shouldn't be surprised, I guess, by the numbers. But yeah, the question will be, can they hang on to those pieces? And then perhaps, how do they use this to maybe bring in new pieces and springboard? Maybe we're talking them in the NCAA tournament out of the Southern Conference next year.
Absolutely. The NIT has finished up. The college basketball crown continues out in Vegas. Central Florida defeated Cincinnati last night, and Villanova advanced as well. So you've got your Final Four in that field. They will play Saturday. Boise and Nebraska will play at I guess it's 12:30 our time on FS1, and UCF and Villanova will play at 3 on FS1. The championship is Sunday. So the Final Four isn't the only champion to be crowned. Still, somebody's getting a crown in Vegas as well.
Yeah, and so, I mean, now you've reached when you get to the semifinals is when that pool opens for the NIL money. So making it to this round is what you really wanted if you're a kid on that team that signed up to play in this tournament. Now you can start reaping a little bit of the benefits there financially, which is cool to see. That's kind of the whole appeal of this tournament in my mind.
Absolutely. Florida Auburn and Houston Duke. We've talked about it off and on all week. Any prevailing thoughts for you as we get into tomorrow's semifinals?
I think it's going to be 2 fun games. I'm very intrigued by the Duke-Houston game just because Duke seems like of the 4 best teams this season, they're right now playing at an insanely high level. They feel like the best of the 4. And so can Houston slow them down? Does Houston have the goods to knock them off? That's the game. I don't think it will be pretty. I know it won't be pretty because Houston's involved. Those guys play such great defense. It's going to be ugly no matter what. But that's Houston's winning recipe. So can they potentially knock off who a lot of folks think are going to win or cut down the nets on Monday night? On the other side of the equation, going to be very curious to see how this Auburn-Florida showdown shapes out. Feels like Auburn has suddenly got their juice back with 2 nice wins in the 16 and the 8. Can they keep it going versus Florida, who felt like a juggernaut coming in out of the SEC tournament, but kind of snuck by a game or 2? I think it'll be 2 really good games. I'm looking forward to Monday night's championship game, obviously.
Yeah. as much as I wanted to believe in Houston coming out of that game against Tennessee last Sunday, the more I listen to people who actually know stuff, the more I feel like this is probably going to be a Florida Duke matchup in Monday's championship game. And as well as Florida has played here at stretches, flag maybe X factor. And I guess hard as it is to reconcile, and it's probably even harder for you, Wade, but sounds like Duke is going to be cutting down the nets on Monday night.
I mean, they've got to be the favorite, and they are, your favorite going into it. It will take. This feels like if Duke is going to stub its toe, it feels like it might be in this game because Houston is just so dogged on the defensive end, and they have this kind of upperclassman-based roster that feels like they have, a grudge or an axe to grind, especially against Duke. So if they're going to lose a game, it feels like it might be this one. If Duke wins, Duke, Florida, I hate to admit it, but I did have Duke over Florida in my bracket at the start of this whole thing. I think that will be a slobber knocker, but in a much different sense. They might be running and gunning kind of like we saw with Alabama earlier. So buckle up if that's the matchup we get. I think hopefully this is the round that we get the big payoff. We've kind of been kicking the can down the road with really good games. We've had a few sprinkled in here, a few sprinkled in there, but the rounds as a whole have not delivered. Maybe the Final Four and maybe the championship will save us.
That would be nice. We talked about Chris Beard, who had been thought to be the favorite to replace Buzz Williams at Texas A&M, has signed an extension with Ole Miss and has gotten some concessions in terms of his staff and some NIL support, that kind of thing. So Texas still on the hunt. And I don't know that there is an obvious pick for them, especially since apparently Grant McCaslin out of Texas Tech has supposedly, allegedly rebuffed them as well. So all of a sudden, Texas A&M has got some money to spend, and they can't necessarily find anybody to take it.
Yeah, and we've said it a million times on this show, but the portal is open, and the portal needs to be tended to sooner than later. So the sooner they can get somebody in, we're almost reaching the point that you will take a, quote, lesser candidate just to get a yes and get things rolling. Trev Alberts, the AD there, good luck because, it seems like his first couple swings have kind of come up empty.
Well, I mean, and I get it, swing hard in case you hit it. But, again, to your point, you got to get somebody in there because these guys in the portal aren't necessarily waiting. High Point coach Alan Huss is a name that is being knocked around apparently. And that's one of those situations that you see sometimes. Once you have that success at the level of a High Point and something like this comes around, you kind of got to go. So chatted with Blake Lovell from Southeastern 16 earlier. He also mentioned Steve Lutz out of Oklahoma State might be a possibility. Steve Forbes out of Wake Forest may be a possibility. And Mississippi State's Chris Jans, which would really upset some folks in Starkville, I think. So, it's going to be interesting to see whether they go with an established head coach or if they have to at the high major level, or if they have to go down and get like a Huss or somebody like that just to get somebody, like you said. An interesting name also, Porter Moser from Oklahoma, who would be staying in conference if that were to be the case.
And reading some local, digging through some message boards here. Chris Mack's name's coming back up, formerly at Xavier, a long time at Xavier, and then that stint at Louisville, currently at Charleston. But if you're looking for a quote-unquote established guy, maybe that's someone you pursue. But, yeah, the time is ticking down there in College Station.
Yeah, no doubt. Folks in Birmingham might get a little upset to hear this when we mentioned Andy Kennedy, but Bucky McMillan out of Sanford may be a guy. So
there was an article on The Athletic about, would Maryland really go outside of the box? And his name was one said, hey, if you're going to swing way outside of the box, that maybe is a name take him out of the South East where he's kind of plied his trade, obviously, and a huge step up in terms of stakes. But yeah, his name feels like it's going to get more buzz as the years go along here, if it's not sooner than later.
I see what you did there with the buzz. Anyway, let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return to the weekend warm-up, we'll be joined by the Associated Press's Teresa Walker. Stick around.
Hi, I'm Riley, a certified physician associate here at Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee. We have a couple locations, Murfreesboro, McMinnville, as well as Franklin. We treat people of all ages. We're excited to get you back on your feet and hope we can help you today.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
We continue with the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. And joining us now, producer Mark was not quite familiar with the queen of the Tennessee sports media, Teresa Walker of the Associated Press, because it's been a while. Where you been hiding, T?
Well, did you not notice it's been March? I mean, excuse me, but NFL free agency, SEC tournament. I was in Lexington for the first and second round of the men, and it's like, my God, it's already April, and in less than 3 weeks, we will know who the number one pick for the Titans are. Who they took, and my pre-draft preview that's already written has Cam Ward as the pick. So it's one of those. And oh yeah, your former intern is getting married at the end of this month. So it's like, I've been busy just a little bit, and time flies when you're having fun in the state of Tennessee.
Blah blah blah.
That's all you got.
I know. Should I mention the norovirus that I fought through before the SEC tournament?
Ooh.
Okay, all right.
No,
You're
don't
building up some
actually.
cred. Yeah, but keep those germs far away.
Yes, yes.
I went through my house with bleach like I was detoxing. I attacked everything, and did not go near people until the doctor assured me that I was not contagious, because that poor ER was smashed over in Franklin. So it's like it hit this county hard. And and when I went to Lexington, as I stepped into the hotel room, it's like Clorox wipes, everything. I'm not touching a thing without, being careful.
Sounds like you should have just burned it down and started over again, Teresa, from a norovirus standpoint. But I tell you what, I imagine of everything that you mentioned, everything takes a back seat to that wedding at the end of the month.
Yes, it is going to be. I will not be at the draft this year for the first time since this franchise started having drafts in the state of Tennessee in 1998. So this will be my first one missed in 28 years because, only one child, and that takes priority. And the Titans can pick Cam Ward without me being there.
Yep.
And you hopefully use the 7 other picks, maybe get a couple more. Maybe trade Will Levis, and we'll see. But Terry McCormick's going to kind of fill in for me that weekend while I am mama of the groom.
There you go. I assume the dress has been purchased.
Oh yes, it's being hemmed. I waited maybe a little late, didn't get the first choice, but actually like the second choice a little bit better. So, and it's going to be a fun night. I love the fact that Nashville and Middle Tennessee has become such a wedding factory. We're actually going down to Beau Cheval in Wartrace to find a place that, doesn't cost an arm and a leg.
Mm-hmm.
We're familiar. Teresa, women's Final Four tonight. Texas and South Carolina are the lid lifter. UConn and UCLA, the nightcap. 6 and 8 are the times on those. Some have framed this as South Carolina and the 3 teams that have beaten the Gamecocks over the course of this season. How do you see this? What are your thoughts from a women's basketball aficionado / analyst?
Well, I do have thoughts, and I'll say this. The one thing that Dawn Staley has done in her tremendous stint at South Carolina, she's not won back-to-back titles. And now this is her 5th straight Final Four. It just feels like revenge time, baby. If she needed motivation, she's got it. If she needs to get her Gamecocks' attention, she should have it. And this is an area that they're familiar with this stage. And UCLA, it's new to them. Texas, I know that Vic Schaefer has done some great things. Gino Auriemma and UConn obviously are used to being at this point. But to me, it just kind of feels like the Dawn Staley revenge tour, so to speak, where they take care of Texas and then I'm expecting UConn to come out of the other game and the game, and Dawn is cutting another net. And we'll see how many more coaches she shares pieces of that net with and does the one thing she hadn't done yet in an incredibly lengthy list of accomplishments with the Gamecock program.
I like that. I think one of the issues that some people have as they consider South Carolina to repeat is that they don't necessarily have that go-to person in a clutch situation, so to speak. I mean, they've got a lot of people that they can put the ball in their hands and that kind of thing, but they don't have necessarily that walk-in bucket that Asia Wilson or whoever else that they've had in some of their other championship runs. And maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. I'm not sure. Maybe it makes them harder to defend because they can go in so many different directions when they've got a possession, when they've got a score. Maybe it's a Joyce Edwards, maybe it's a Full Wiley, somebody like that, as opposed to everybody in the building on where the ball is going. It's kind of like that line from the Shaft remake. Does that make me more dangerous or less dangerous?
I think it makes them more dangerous because that's the thing. When you know who's getting the ball, and I'm going to use John Morant from the Grizzlies last night. When you need a bucket, call 12. Yeah, we'll get into that. But when you need a bucket, you can take and send him to that and go get that. Now the problem is with the Gamecocks. Think about back to a year ago, the SEC tournament championship, and the one person that Tennessee did not defend the inbound or the one person out at the 3-point line. So what if she had never tried a three? It's the one shot that can beat you. A two forces overtime. Don't let the three beat you. And they didn't do either of that. So, and let's not forget, they won that national championship last year with 5 brand new starters. So that's the thing. I think it makes it tougher to defend them because if you do need a bucket, who are you defending? You gotta watch for all 5 on the court because Dawn knows what she's drawing up. It's kind of like playing football on an icy field. The offense knows what they're doing. The defense is trying to play catch up. I put it in that situation. You're trying to guess who's going to get the ball in that situation. Is it Joyce Edwards? Is it Fulwiley? Is it somebody else that Dawn is going to put in that situation because she knows her? So that's what, to me, makes them so dangerous and why I see them cutting down the nets.
Teresa, I'm curious, speaking real quick on South Carolina again, 4-point wins versus Maryland and Duke. In your mind, does that maybe we got lucky and we escaped, but now that's behind us? Or is that a sign of, hey, this is a little bit more flawed team than maybe we initially thought?
Survive and advance, baby. That's all that matters.
That's the way I look at it.
I mean, that's the thing. At the end of the day, who is looking back at the point total? If you didn't bet on the game, a loss is a loss.
Didn't bet on that one.
Exactly. So you win. And that's all that matters when you're in March or now April. Win the game. As Herman Edwards once say, you play to win the game. That's all that matters. And it shows a toughness, I think. The ability to gut out a tough win. I mean, Maryland and Duke, those are good teams. I mean, Carol Lawson had a really good team at Duke this year. Mm-hmm. Brenda Fries at Maryland, I mean, she's game in, game out. And shout out to Brenda Fries. She sent a nice little plaque to Coach O for, honoring her 200th career victory. I saw that on social the other day. So it's like those are 2 strong programs. Those were not, if you're not familiar with their programs, maybe you're thinking, ooh, that was a tough one for South Carolina. No, those were tough games because those were tough teams. And I think that makes them more battle tough as they go through. Oh, as if going through the SEC wasn't enough.
All right.
And to that point, Teresa, we've talked about South Carolina. How does Texas win this game and get their own kind of extra measure of revenge against South Carolina in your mind? What is their key if you can think of one there?
Well, I having watched the Lady Vols game, I just think that they're going to have to make sure that they play the entire court. And the one thing that they did was they took away the 3 from Tennessee, which, they lived and died by the 3 this year, and they really affected them. So what piece of South Carolina's game are they going to take away? What is Vic Schaefer going to do to slow down the Gamecocks? And that, if they can do that, that's what I'm waiting to see is what does he try to do? Does he go after Fulwiley? Does he focus on Joyce Edwards, who, a lot of people thought she was the best freshman in the SEC. I'll disagree and say she's got a really nice supporting cast. Michaela Blake's. I'm going to go with her from Vanderbilt. But the fact of the matter is, this is the pressure's on Texas because they've got to show what they can do against, again, a program that has been there, done that, and did it last year.
Teresa Walker of the Associated Press joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. In the other game, UConn kind of crashed the party. The only number 2 seed in either men's or women's to get to the Final Four. Everybody else was a number 1 in their respective regions. So now, obviously, I don't want to say UConn took advantage of an injured Southern Cal, but you'd certainly like to think that it would have been a different game if Juju Watkins had been in it. But that said, UConn is here. What are your thoughts about the UConn UCLA matchup?
Well, it's going to be interesting. I mean, Paige Beckers has got a nice supporting cast. Sarah Strong, who I think got all this attention as National Freshman of the Year because, again, well, she plays at UConn. But I look at UCLA and Lauren Betts. If I'm, she's impressive, and I think she is going to give them some challenges. But it's kind of like that South Carolina effect. Gino's been there. He knows how to get the team ready and get the Huskies ready. And Paige Beckers, we all expect her to be the number overall pick in the WNBA draft a week from Monday night, going to the Dallas Wings. This is, with her career has not been at UConn what people thought it would be, should be, could be. It just feels like, they're going to have at least enough to get to the title game. And then, I've said what I think will happen there, but I do think that experience being on that stage and trying to get, which UCLA doesn't. The lights are brighter when you're there for the first time. And, the Huskies have that experience in that program. I mean, it's an expectation for the Huskies to be playing in the Final Four. It just is. It's what it used to be for the Tennessee Lady Vols. And there is an undefinable quality with that expectation, a comfortability that comes with knowing that's where you're supposed to be. And I think that's enough to help them get through tonight.
I kind of feel like, though, to your point earlier, I think Lauren Betts can give UConn some problems. I feel like, though, if it's a close game late, that experience factor that you talked about with UConn probably comes through. So, if UConn gets down but stays close, if UCLA is able to get up, they better put their foot on the gas and put their foot on UConn's neck, I think, or they're liable to get their hearts broke there. But in a UConn, well, you've already said you think South Carolina's cutting down the nets regardless. And you talked about Dawn Staley and motivation. UConn beats South Carolina by nearly 30 when they played earlier this year.
That to me was just an anomaly. I mean, who knows? Maybe they had a bad meal that day. Maybe maybe there's, something happened. But if that's the matchup on Sunday, what do you think the first tape Dawn is going to pull out? It ain't going to be whatever happens today. It's going to be that game. And you don't think that's a sore spot? I don't want to be in that team meeting.
Yeah, you can pretty well guarantee they're going to get reminded of that one. Although, it might even be a situation where they don't have to be reminded. As we've talked about other coaches and other programs and that kind of thing, they know what happened.
They remember it very, very well. So I think that they are hoping that that's who they play so that they can get a little bit of payback.
The revenge tour continues.
Yep.
Teresa Walker of the Associated Press joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Want to mention there will be two teams on the floor, but pay attention to the stripes as well, because Glencliff High School graduate Felicia Greinter is one of 11 officials that have been assigned to the weekend. They will have obviously three official crews, and they will have two alternates as well. Each three-person crew will work a game. Hoping not to see Felicia tonight, because that would mean that she would be working the championship game. This will be her 9th Final Four. Two of the other officials assigned to this weekend's Final Four will be working their 9th ones as well. So she is one of the most experienced officials assigned to this weekend down in Tampa. And, it'd be great if she does draw that Sunday championship assignment, but be on the lookout for Felicia either tonight or on Sunday. Huge accomplishment.
Totally. And that experience is why I'm certainly hoping that it's Sunday, because she certainly has earned it.
Oh, without question. She has worked some WNBA. I think she's done some off-season NBA. She's done some Olympics. I mean, she has really carved out a nice career for herself as an official, obviously drawing this assignment and drawing it 8 times previously, one of the top ones in the country. So, again, keep an eye out for the local in stripes, Felicia Grider. Teresa, we appreciate you taking some time with us this afternoon. And anything else we need to know about while we've got you?
I'm trying to think. I'm down that Cam Ward's going to win. I will make a quick men's pick. I think Florida. I know that everyone's going Duke, but I think Auburn, having covered them in the SEC tournament in Lexington, I know that they look strong in the Sweet 16 weekend, but free throw shooting has been an issue for them at times. And then secondly, I just think that Florida got the close call that they needed to kind of wake themselves up. That's just a deep, deep Gators team. And, Cooper Flagg, he is a freshman, as talented as he is, possibly.
We almost got through without losing Teresa.
Froze up on us.
She did.
You start bringing that 4-letter word into the equation.
and bad things start to happen.
Yep.
And it doesn't look like she's coming unfrozen anytime soon. So let's just go ahead and take a break, our final break of the day here.
Thank you, Teresa.
Yeah, there we go. Let's take our final break here on the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today. Come back and tell you what else we're paying attention to this weekend. Stick around.
Hey, let's go Stros.
People are amazed at the variety and quality of guests we bring into Main Street Sports Today. But when you've been in this business for nearly 40 years and you never throw away a phone number, it's pretty easy. Right, Wade?
Absolutely. And Wynn agrees with me. Check out some of our guests featured on Main Street Sports Today.
Step back and catch my breath. But I expect nothing less from you, big boy. Let's get going.
We make it work pretty good. So
the fans are tremendous. It's fantastic.
It was really amazing.
Yeah.
From preps to pros, you never know who's going to stop by. So be sure to listen to and watch Main Street Sports Today from 2 to 4 p.m. daily on the MSM TV app. It's the final segment of the weekend warm-up here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. Plenty on the sports plate for this weekend. Nashville Soccer Club heading over to Charlotte. 2 teams with matching records of 3 wins, 1 draw, and 2 losses will be taken to the pitch. It's a 1:30 start Nashville time. You can see it on Apple TV. Nashville having won 3 in a row before dropping their last matchup, but it feels like, Wade, everybody feels pretty good about this team right now despite their latest loss.
Yeah, you obviously want to win them all, especially when you're on a good run of form. But we've kind of broken it down that Cincinnati was going to be a tough team and a tough out. Charlotte, any game on the saying the same thing here. Any team on the road, Nashville is not yet to the point where you can bank on picking up a draw. I'm willing to go that far. You can't bank on picking up a draw. You can't certainly bank on picking up a win on the road just yet. So kind of old school soccer. Your goal at this point should be to at least try and grab that road point with a draw. And then hopefully with what we've seen, bit more creative play, bit more possession, a bit more attack, maybe you go for the gusto and can pull out a win. It'd be nice. This would make me feel a lot better. Still feel pretty good coming in, but if you can go and start stacking road wins, that's when we kind of know you're for real.
Mentioned earlier in the show during the rundown, the Preds give up 4 goals in the third last night at Dallas and lose 5-1. They actually scored the first goal, led 1-0 after 1. Dallas tied it up in the second period and then just shelled Anunen in the third period. They've got Montreal coming in Sunday. That's a 6:00 puck drop. And there were 5 more Nashville Predators games after that. And I think that's probably the best point we can make.
Coming down the stretch, Money Puck has them at 11.4% chance for that precious number 1 overall pick. Sharks currently hold that dubious distinction. The Blackhawks right behind them at 16%. But, I mean, even as bad as Nashville is and has been this season, Dallas is – I mean, they're battling Winnipeg for the division, and Winnipeg is also battling the Capitals for the President's Trophy. So, I mean, you're talking the 3 best teams in the league. You had to get one of them. Throw in the fact that you're kind of right at the end of what has been a real stinker of a season, and it wasn't a good recipe. Everybody's a professional. Everybody has to strap them up, and we see crazy things happen. But you're seeing one team playing some of its best hockey of the season, and Nashville is what Nashville is, and we kind of saw the result.
Yeah. I just think it's by now we're all resigned to it, but for the expectations that this team had coming into the season, it's still kind of tough to reconcile how this year has gone.
Yeah, it's been tough. And, I went to one of the playoff games last year, got a selfie with Teresa at that playoff game last year in the opening round. But in a weird way, that kind of raised expectations. It kind of elevated them maybe beyond what I think was perhaps reasonable, because we were talking about this team being in a slow rebuild, and then they go on this insane run, this insane point streak to kind of just thrust themselves literally into the playoff picture last year. And that was great. And I'm not ever going to, I'm never going to turn down playoff hockey in that barn by any means, but it kind of set us up, and now you're in a weird spot. This will be a very interesting offseason for Nashville. Do they make some more moves that kind of give the idea that they're, quote-unquote, trying to contend? Or do you make some moves that kind of put you more in that rebuild mindset? I'm glad I'm not making those decisions, because it feels like they're in a weird spot, kind of stuck in the middle.
Yeah, and I tell you, rebuilds are tough to sell, man. Nobody wants to hear that their team is rebuilding. And I think we've got at least one team in this market that firmly finds itself in that situation, whether they want to admit it or not. I don't think there's any choice but for them to admit it. But I'm just not sure that the Predators can admit it. I think it'd be a tough admission to make, and it'll be interesting, like you said, to see how they handle that. So
yeah, I mean, that's the thing with me, right? I mean, you kind of with the signings you made with Marchessault and Stamkos, those 2 alone, kind of bringing those in kind of puts your flag down, and you plant the flag and say, hey, we're kind of taking ourselves seriously this year. That's why I'm so fascinated to see if they walk things back. This is a prideful franchise, and we know Barry Trotz really doesn't settle for anything except success, but he's a very smart and calculated guy. Maybe he overestimated what was possible. And that's what's going to be the very interesting thing. They do got a couple more home games left. We mentioned Sunday versus the Canadians. They also got Tuesday versus the Islanders. And then the following week on the 14th and the 16th, they got 2 more at home. So a couple more chances to see the guys. Good news, tickets should be readily available and pretty cheap.
There you go. If you want to go see them.
You want to get some cheap, be your cheapest ticket probably to get in this season.
SEC baseball, another weekend, and a couple of haves and have-not matchups as 23rd ranked Vanderbilt travels to Florida. The Commodores 21-8 overall, 4-5 in SEC play, which, sounds a little rough, but compare it to this Gator team that is 20-11 overall and 1-8 in league play. And you're not used to looking as far down the standings to find Florida as you have to look to find them right now. Tough stretch for the Gators right now, and hopefully Vanderbilt can go down and kind of take advantage of that a little bit. A series win would be huge, especially coming off the weekend that they just had.
Yeah, you would hope that Vanderbilt can get some mojo going. They did have a tough one. Sister was in the house for Hawaiian shirt night Tuesday, but they had to squeak out a walk-off win versus that WKU school up there in Bowling Green. So maybe they could keep things going. But you're right, man. The standings, it is jarring to see Florida, Mississippi State, South Carolina, Texas A&M all with 1-8 records. I know there's no gimmies, and I know every team in this league is capable of beating the other. But, man, this is something we're kind of not used to seeing here. Vanderbilt hopefully can cash in. Be nice to see them maybe kind of creep toward the upper. Somebody's got to finish at the bottom, but also that means some folks got to finish toward the top, and maybe Coach Corbin's boys can kind of start crafting some wins out there.
You mentioned that Texas A&M team, one of the last two teams standing out in Omaha last summer. They traveled to the other one this weekend. A&M is at Lindsey Nelson Stadium for 3 against top-ranked Tennessee, defending national champion Tennessee. The Aggies 14-14 overall, again 1-8 in league play. Tennessee 27-2, 8-1, and at 8-1 they are part of a 4-way tie atop the league, along with Arkansas, Georgia, and Texas. LSU a half game back after their win last night over Oklahoma. Top 10 matchup there. LSU number 7, Oklahoma number 10. So, this, as again, as we've said during football, during basketball, both men's and women, this is a league that eats its young, and Texas A&M is kind of showing the backside of that, obviously. And we've talked about some injuries that they've had, but again, you would have expected them to have been better equipped to deal with some of that than clearly they have been. But they are one of 4 teams at 1-8, all a game ahead of winless Missouri. So Florida, Mississippi State against South Carolina, and A&M all 1-8 through 3 weekends of SEC play. So
yeah, when you see Texas A&M in the championship game and you're down there in College Station, you say, man, it'd be fun to go to Knoxville next year for this rematch. This is not what you had in mind. This is not what you had in mind.
No, not at all. Not at all. So it should be some interesting ball this weekend across the Southeastern Conference, as always. Weekend number 2 of the United Football League gets going with a 6 o'clock Central Time matchup on Fox between the Birmingham Stallions and the Michigan Panthers. This one's in Detroit. You've got Memphis going to D.C. for a 6 o'clock kick tomorrow. That game can be seen on ABC. And Sunday, you've got a couple of games. Houston and Arlington. That's a 10 o'clock start. Is that right? Or are these Central Times? It doesn't tell me what these times are. It says 11 o'clock. I'm assuming that's Eastern time for Houston at Arlington, followed by San Antonio at St. Louis at 5:30 is what's listed here. The early games on ESPN, the late games on FS1. But again, if you want your 11-man tackle football fix, these guys will get you taken care of.
Yeah, league kind of rolling right along. And, I haven't reached a point yet where my fix is – I'm not scratching just yet, but give me another week or two. I might come around at some point.
A little closer to home, AF1 play at Municipal Auditorium, 6:30 kick tonight between the 1-2 Oregon Lightning and the 0-2 Nashville Cats. The Cats coming off of a 42-34 loss to visiting Albany last week. In that game, quarterback Rakeem Cato went 22 of 34 for 239 yards, threw for 3 touchdowns, making his Cats debut. Well, grand opening, grand closing. Cato was released earlier this week. So with his release, the only quarterback on the roster was Tyler Kafka.
Northwestern quarterback, I think, right?
Is that right? I don't know. I was just going to say everybody knows Tyler Kafka, right?
Let me fact check myself here.
Yeah. But,
maybe I'm thinking of a different former Wildcat.
There couldn't be
Mike Kafka was the former Northwestern great. My apologies.
No, that's okay. Yeah, so I don't know what's happening under center for the Cats with Cato gone, but they've got Oregon coming in tonight. Again, a 6:00 kick at Municipal Auditorium for that one. Oregon defeated the Southwest Kansas Storm their last time out on a Hail Mary at the end of the game. That is the same Southwest Kansas Storm team that defeated the Cats 40-26 in the season opener prior to that 42-34 loss to Albany. So we will try to get you up to speed on all of this stuff when we come back together Monday at 2:00. Also, the Goodyear 400 Sunday at 2:00 on FS1. We spoke with Heather Williams about this one a little bit yesterday. Promises to be pretty colorful with all of the throwback paint schemes that she was so excited about. So tune into that one and see how that goes. Denny Hamlin coming out of Martinsville with a win, looking for his second straight now, trying to match Christopher Bell from earlier in the year. Bubba Wallace trying to improve on back-to-back third place finishes the last 2 outings. And that's NASCAR.
And the Japan Grand Prix. If you can stay up late Saturday night, Mo, they'll be racing out in Japan. It's one of the big F1 races of the year. You got to stay all the way up till midnight, though, before they start that thing. So you got brew an extra pot if you want to get up for the Japanese Grand Prix on Sunday morning, technically.
Ideally, I guess you would just still be hyped up from the Final Four semifinal matchups, and you can just roll right into the Japan Grand Prix after that. Wade, how do you prepare for a half marathon where it may or may not rain?
As long as it's not windy, I've said this to a few friends this week. I don't care if it rains, as long as it's not windy. The last time I ran this race, it was stiff winds, and it's not bad in these quote-unquote hollers, but when you make the last mile and a half, when you exit right by Moore County and turn back onto the main drag, the wind about knocked me over. So I'm just going to wear the regular shorts, top, throw some headphones in, and let's roll, baby. Hopefully I'm still standing on Monday when we come back.
Godspeed. We'll be thinking about you, Wade. Come back Monday at 2:00 and see how Wade survives down at Lynchburg this weekend.
No banjos.
Yeah. Have a great weekend.